Welcome to Coffee, Coaching, and Callings, a live podcast created for coaches, leaders, and helping professionals that are on a mission to lead a successful and heart-centered life. Your hosts today are myself, Laurel Elders, and Michael Tucker of the Institute for Integrative Intelligence, where it's our mission to elevate human potential through both the art and the science of masterful coaching. Today's podcast will be focusing on following your calling, and we have with us today Dr. Jamal Fruster. Dr. Jamal is an advocate for healthcare professionals. He empowers his patients and clients to fill their cups by breaking unhealthy patterns. He's a doctor of chiropractic medicine in Tucson, Arizona, and he hosts Soul Coffee, a podcast that helps exhausted and burnt out professionals, parents, or healthcare providers to move back into living presently and powerfully. Welcome.
It's an honor to be here with two of the brightest people that I've met and had such great conversations with. I'm so honored to be here and so happy to be able to pour into y'all guests.
Yeah, I'm very excited for our conversation today. And I mean, on so many levels, right? Healthcare, following a calling, deeper living. Yeah. What would you say is at the heart of, or like the core philosophy of your work?
Man, I would say chasing your dream, ultimately. And I think it's just very appropriate with the essence of y'all podcast and what y'all do, but really just encouraging people to chase their dream. In the majority of my work, I am a chiropractor by day, and that's where I'm putting majority of my time, and that's what I've invested obviously schooling into and studying the nervous system optimization, regulation, trauma understanding, energy, which is can be very new language for people, although I think that they're getting sensitive to it and it's becoming more common syntax and vocabulary. However, I think what's missing in society is the connection of how the emotional and mental directly impact the physical, and the physical directly impacts the mental and emotional, where people, I think, get trapped in their minds and then ultimately their bodies and then their stories, meanings, these different lineage of their trauma that might be theirs or might be generationally or might be projected onto them by another, is simply the lack of awareness and how that's getting stuck in their body, what to do with it, and how to recognize it. So the essence of my work is to be able to shine a light, like a bright flashlight or sun ray or a bright beam of light on what people might be missing or may not know in their awareness, so that way they can know that it exists, one. And then I'm here to partner with them and ally with them, so that way we can walk together in their health and healing journey and shifting and shedding and integrating that pattern into their life, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So I find in my work, it's as deep as people want to go. So I got to meet people where they're at and why they're at, and then we go from there.
I love what you said, why they're at. I also love that you brought in energy, because I worked in acupuncture school for years, and that was the one component that was often, in the acupuncture school, they highlighted chi cultivation, right? Energy cultivation. How can we cultivate our energy? And then in coaching, we can look at what energy am I bringing into this? Am I conscious of my energy?
And I've had good talks with Mr. Michael Tucker here on, the importance of healing, one, but especially in healing facilitators, which I humbly think that coaches are, because everybody needs a coach, but you need to define your podium. I was a D1 athlete as well too, so familiar with the podium. However, that's everybody in their life, and the podium for me represents your most recent accomplishment, represents what you're striving for, represents the most recent vantage point or a success or milestone in your dream. And in crafting these vantage points or these spaces, micro to macro, where we can slow down and get really present to how far we've progressed and how we've progressed, then I think people can really celebrate that. And I think with me as a chiropractor, I get to really celebrate a lot of people. Like every time someone comes in, oh my God, doc, I have more energy. Or, oh my God, doc, like one of my practice members said, she had never flown and felt better when she had got there. She had always acquainted it to feeling worse or being in more pain, being in more symptoms. And she came back with that, and she rung a little healing bell and high-fived her, and we're like, let's keep going. It's like the third or fourth time I adjusted her. So still very early in her care, but already experiencing very profound results.
Nice.
Yeah, Jamal, you talked about being a D1 athlete. Could you take us on a little bit of a journey on how you got to where you are?
Happily. So it all started when I was pulling about 350 pounds and my back went, nope. And I injured myself junior year, as what got me into undergraduate in the first place was my legs. I didn't think, as a Black and Latino male, coming from East Hartford, Connecticut, that I wasn't going to amount to anything crazy. My parents, massive lovers of life, blue collar workers, did whatever they needed to for me and my sister. Provided a beautiful home, and I think trauma has I almost say poetic, or an important or a pre-designated way, depending upon how you look at things, to be integrated later. A big trauma that I experienced was sexual, when I was younger, and I got abused when I was 9, and that crafted this angry, younger version of myself that didn't know how to emotionally regulate. So sports were a natural regulator. They're a place where I could let go of energy. They're a place where I could feel myself. They're a place where I could have some sort of grip of power, control, excitement, conquest. And I got good at using my legs as I did soccer, wrestling, and track. And my junior year, my new coach, he looked at me, Matt Shea. He looked at me, he's like, where do you want to go to school? And I said, me? For what? He said, track. You're going to run D1. I said, me? Where? You can go to UConn, University of Connecticut, and you can be one of the group there and you'd be in the mix, or you can go to CCSU, you could be top dog. I was like, huh. I didn't have the grades to go to UConn, so I ended up at CCSU, Central Connecticut State University, go Devils. And it was so important, I think, to be able to really, it just opened up the landscape for me of exploration, newness, courage, talk about a leap of faith. Like, even I was the first one to go to a 4-year university in my immediate family. So it was a very new experience for me, even though it was just 20 minutes away. And I incurred a lot of success there. I used it as a fresh slate, a fresh start for anyone that might be transitioning into a new space. That was just my most recent leap of faith. I think that was probably my first leap of faith. Really, now reflecting it, like going from my hometown to going to living on campus, navigating a new world of a lot of different energies. But track was everything for me. And my junior year, I messed up my back, felt pain in my back, a little bit of numbness or weakness in my legs. Saw my coach, he said, go to a chiropractor. I said, okay. And from my experience there, I loved it. I always loved the anatomy. I wanted to be a nurse my freshman year. Your boy barely made it into school. So I didn't have the 3.9 GPA cutoff to get into that nursing program, because I was going up against, I'll just speak frankly, white women that have been setting their whole lives for that. And it's all good, as that's not what I was supposed to do. So put me on the PE track. I was going to be Mr. Fruster. So I was going to be a great PE teacher to educate the young ones and how to move their bodies. And then I saw a chiropractor, and that's where I think the first seed was planted, where he's like, you could be a chiropractor and you'd be great. And I was like, you don't know me. Why are you talking to me like that? I kind of like it, but why are you talking to me like that? I can't do that. Fate had it where I was working at a restaurant, bust a table. I was a busser, bust a table, great busser, by the way. Bust a table for a chiropractor and his wife. They loved my energy. They took a shot in the dark, hit me up on Facebook. I saw it a few months later. They said, hey, we love your energy, Jamal. You want to come work for us? I said, hell yeah, because I was burnt out at the restaurant industry. And after I saw a few weeks of being a medical scribe, typing up, these people that would come in a flexed, protected, really guarded, sympathetic, stress state position to open, healing, powerful, and present, I was like, whoa. Whatever it takes, I will do this the rest of my life, and I will be so happy with it. And my mentor at the time, Dr. Moshe Lob, sent me to Life University down in Atlanta, Georgia, which is where I went on my tour, my junior spring season. And from there, I switched my major again. It was the third time I switched my major, full load all throughout the rest of my time at my university, up until my 5th year. And after that, the rest it was written. It was written, and it had been the best journey of my life. Grad school was amazing. It's where I met my mentor, Dr. Brett Jones. who I now work with at the Source Chiropractic here in Tucson. And he put me on a path to discovering deep, deep layers and levels of self. And then I think the next 7 years then of six, 7 years of grad school and just a journey chiropractically up until this point has been, I feel like I just started living.
Wow. How do you see your, excuse me, your calling expanding now that you're in this, your life shifted in this direction?
And to be in a celebratory state with y'all, I really think that I'm gaining momentum. I really think that I'm gaining momentum. And I say that humbly, I say it boldly because I'm claiming it. Because it feels good. It feels good to claim it. It feels good to, like we were just in the pre-chat. I'm excited to work with more physicians and nurses as I've been recently connected to certain people and folk and have been gaining more opportunities. And I think it's because I've been getting continuously more clear on myself and, what it is that I want in my vision and shifting healthcare at a very powerful and potent level, and how people essentially view health, not even healthcare itself, because we have a sick care system in the United States. And I think it's important and potent for people to understand health without necessarily a doctor, to understand how their body works and how energy works and how stress works, and really help expand their lens or their windshield and how they view life, so that way it can be in an inspiring way and an empowering way, so that when they get stuck, then they seek help. Only when they get stuck, then they look outside themselves, because before that they have so much inspiration and access to resources and resourcefulness within themselves, skills and abilities and energy, that they can navigate, or they can ultimately adapt.
Yeah, and you didn't say this, but what came to mind is also maybe like putting them in touch with the physician within.
Oh yeah, the doctor within. That's good. My left mentoring business is called That's Something Life Coaching, and I'm excited. I just got the LLC made in Arizona, which feels good. But there's a philosophy in chiropractic, and there's these massive green books. Not that all not massive, but one is The Bigness of the Fellow Within. And then there's this story of That Something, and it takes you on this captivating journey of the developer of chiropractic, Dr. B.J. Palmer, and how he had to awaken that something within him that could move the seas, that could shift mountains, that could absolutely change your life and transform your life. And it's within all of us if we allow it to be sung versus singing it to sleep or lulling it to sleep, because a lot of people lull it to sleep, but once you awaken that something, your obligation to move sacredly is just activated.
Yeah. It's really exciting to hear you just share so powerfully. You and I have the privilege of walking every Thursday. We call them our philosophy walks. I think you and our friend Alex started calling them that. And something that you touched on, and I would really invite you to go a little bit deeper with, you talked about a sick care system, and you talked, this whole call is all about callings. So I really want to invite you to just share a little bit more of your vision and your intention around who you be right now and how it's going to impact that system in the future.
I appreciate your invitation. And I appreciate the words that y'all have chosen. Just because something calls doesn't mean you need to answer. So I love the words that y'all use as what I want my energy to embody and be right now and permeate this next decade, these next 511 years, and also with the awareness of the previous 500 years of my ancestors, as something that came through yesterday was, we are our ancestors' greatest gift. We are our ancestors' highest vision. And even as I'm sharing this, I really am happy to feel that surge of energy within, because I think it's one thing to just say that, but to really feel that and
Mm.
feel your DNA coming alive, feeling those telomeres lengthen, feeling the tears come to your face, feeling your heart swell with love, with pride, with joy, with life.
Mm.
I'm excited to restore life and health to this society. Sick care, healthcare, hospital settings, they're just what people might find to be common, but just because they're common doesn't mean it's the only answer and doesn't mean it needs to be the path to truth.
Mm.
One thing that I want to do is I want to be an invitation for people with my energy. If I can make it as clean, as pristine, as encouraging, as inspiring, as range filled or as diverse as I can, that people can be inspired when they see me or when they, it's not me, it's the energy that I'm moving with. Keep this in mind too, that they can be encouraged to be curious about life once more. They can be connected back to their why. They can be so anchored in that it doesn't matter what or how big the demand is on them individually and as an organization, because people are going to be sick and people are the sickest that they ever have been in the history of the world. Let's get that straight. In the history of the world, no one has been this sick as they are right now, especially in the United States. About two-thirds of people, there's 3 people on this call right now or have this podcast. 2 of us are typically overweight or obese. Not that that's the only metric of health, but it's very important to consider metabolic health, because based upon your metabolic health of an individual, it will then indirectly and directly lead to other comorbidities.
Mm.
Staying focused on things on the mental health realm with providers, I want to be able to give them an invitation to live boldly, to live bravely, to be able to advocate for themselves, to be able to advocate for their needs, to be able to connect as a community and be able to lean into each other. Because the vision that I have is that people can bravely lean into each other versus away from each other. I'm tired of this islander phenomenon. I'm tired of this lone wolf thing that a lot of chiropractors, it just spilled out of me, or a lot of healthcare professionals that in general, like, oh, I'll just figure it out on my own, or they just punch in and punch out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a very survivalistic mindset and energy that then is in the workspace when there needs to be thrivability. How are we supposed to provide and facilitate healing results when we are not healing ourselves? It does not happen any other way.
Yeah. And what's fascinating to me is everything is interconnected. And the issue is we're operating as if it's not.
Yes. Yes. Due to a lack of an awareness
Mm-hmm.
or a manipulation and a control from top down, so that way there's not space to do something about it. There's not space to talk about it. There's not space to advocate for your needs. There's not space to lead to this and that operations. And it's because there's a separation from love and community. And I think those are the 2 most powerful needs that I was actually journaling on today, because love, I think, is the anchor of the universe that keeps everything together and what everything moves from or an absence of. And then I also think that community is the X factor that can help get all of your universal needs met, which a lot of people don't know how to utilize community to its fullest extent. I'm still learning how to utilize that to my fullest extent in transparency. But I like to think that I have an awareness and I have humbled myself time and time again to ask for help when I've experienced some of my greatest challenges, even in the last few years.
Yeah, I completely relate. I also appreciate what you're saying about bringing people back to the life within them. I was working with a mentor a couple years back, and he invited me to consider the perspective that I was operating as if I was living in the world versus the life operating from the life within me.
Mm.
I'm just curious if you have any thoughts on that.
First thing I hear, Laurel, is recognition. The life within me recognizes the life within you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, it just feels so good too. My nose is like flaring up with all the feels. There's principles in chiropractic. A lot of people don't know this. And there's principles because we are we're a principle-based profession because that's more sustainable. And we're also a profession that stems from nature. I don't think it's any coincidences that we have two hands, we have the ability to feel, and then we just happen to find a spine, be like, oh wow, yeah, there's a lot of life here. Let's make sure things are moving. Like, I don't think that that's a coincidence at all. And I say that to say, when you can recognize these signs of life, which are assimilation, taking things in, excretion, letting things go, adaptability, so the ability to actually shift. I think that's the most powerful, or one of the most potent ones. Reproducibility and growth.
Mm.
If an organism isn't doing these 5 things on the day-to-day or in some way, shape, or form, then it's probably not fully alive.
Mm.
And I think the 6th sign of life, which isn't taught on until I'm teaching on it more, is recognition. It's like I can see the life within you, like on this podcast, or when I'm with my practice members, like I see the life within them, which it does something for me. It sparks something within me. It moves something in me. It does something to my emotions. And I think our emotions are necessary and actually what connects us to spirit. I think they give us a blueprint and signposts to what we need. And I think that they are at the keystone to understanding how to sustainably progress and advance in this world.
Mm.
So recognition is so important. And I think a lot of people simply lack the space to recognize themselves.
Mm. Yeah.
So when you think about recognition and you think about your calling, what are you recognizing now? And how is that moving you in this moment?
Man, takes me back to just a few weeks ago where I was leading a workshop called Providing for the Providers. If anyone's here in Tucson, you're invited to. Congratulations. I'd love to have you there. And it'd been 7 years. It'd been 7 years since I had met Brett. So I met Brett, I think it was January 17th or January 15th. 2017 is my second quarter of grad school. And when I met Brett, he just consciously and unconsciously just pulled off the ceiling of what was possible. And my expression of health in life felt in chiropractic and so many different things. And that's when I felt like I started living, once more, because I feel like I was fresh. I feel like I was brand new. And to recognize myself 7 years later to be where I'm at, and like I'm just looking out this window on this podcast, and I'm looking at these Arizona trees, and I'm looking at this cacti, and I'm looking at the rocks, a vastly different landscape from where I grew up in. It's all because I was able to have that image and then move upon that image and that dream, answer that call of the heart, and be able to lean fully into that. Like, I don't think, like, I've left no rock unturned. I haven't. Like, I can look back on my days, like I've lived life as much as I can each and every single day. And looking back at it over the last 7 years, I'm just so excited that I gave myself permission to do that, because a lot of people aren't, and it's not easy, but it's so worth it. So in this moment, I'm recognizing myself that I've lived every day as much as I can, as best as I can. I'm finding a lot of grace and a lot of gratitude with that right now.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Mm.
You talked about Dr. Brett coming into your life. Could you talk a little bit about the role of a mentor in your calling and how one recognizes a mentor on their calling journey?
Ooh, great question. For me, Brett was something that I could relate to. So he was 6'4", tatted, light-skinned, black, and in chiropractic. And I had never seen that. I was like, they make these? Where you been, bro? So I dapped him up, and he's also athletic, like, as well too. And I was an athlete, so he gave me an image of like, oh, okay, cool. And he provided a very powerful adjustment for me that was quick. It was precise. The approach that we utilized to discover the body was very much so in resonance. So he gave me a great image, something to strive for. Yet in our relationship as mentor, mentee, and now friends, now partners, and business in different ways, or allies on the same team working at the source Tucson, our relationship dynamic has changed. But I think one thing that is so important as a mentor, yes, they got to see, or they get to see parts of you that you may not see in yourself, and they pull that out of you. Like Brett, I think it was 2019, he spoke a vision over me. He's like, I see you being one of the most powerful lead facilitators we've ever had in teaching more of these chiropractic seminars, and you bringing it into South America. You bring it into Central America. You bring it in Spanish. So he helped add an addition to my vision that I didn't even know that I needed. But then he also provided opportunities for me left and right. If there's a way he could provide an opportunity for me, he would do it. Like, he would go out of his way to do it. And he does that. He gives very abundantly. And if your mentor isn't doing, like, throwing you alleys or of knowledge or feeding into you, like, and they just want to take from you, which is my last point, mentorship needs to be symbiosis, or symbiotic, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not give and take, I imagine that's not a sustainable relationship you want to be in. So yes, they might be advanced or a few steps in front of one's career path or life path. However, I think that there is this vitality that's restored within them, this youthfulness that's restored within them, this charge, this excitement for life that's restored within them, in taking care of someone that might be a half step behind you. So in addition to being symbiotic and making sure your mentor's throwing you alleys, and that they can show you an image, and that they're also able to add to your image or add to your dreams, consciously or unconsciously, I think is just so potent. In which I think being in a mentorship, it's an energetic upgrade, because you're a product of the 5 people you spend the most time around with. One being yourself, then the other 4, well, you got to choose those 4 carefully, because there's so much influence that can come from these 4, physically, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, just professionally, financially, relationship-wise, fun and adventure, religiously, whatever it may be. Like, you are a product of that. So surrounding yourself with people that nourish you in that capacity, necessary, non-negotiable at that. I'd say non-negotiable.
Yeah, it's powerful. What message would you have for somebody that is looking at their calling, feeling the call, but also feeling the fear and feeling stuck?
That's my main thing I tell her. I encourage someone just to lean into it. Lean into it. Lean in. I'm watching my language, but lean into it. Lean into it with all your soul. That's one of my favorite quotes from a mentor of a mentor, Dr. Hugo Gibson. He talks about, to young chiropractors, he talks about the adjustment. He says the adjustment is an extension of your soul. It's like, put your soul into it. When it comes to this life thing, I like to think that we're all adjusting each other constantly mentally. Like, before I touch anybody on the table, I got to shift their mind. So it's just it's playing with thought for me. And the imprint, the footstep that you leave upon this world is, I think, how bravely and courageously you can live in chasing your dreams. So if you're feeling that fear, good. Ask why it's there. Get curious about it. Get curious about your fear. How did that get there? Why did that get there? How is that serving me? How did it serve me? What has it taught me? What is it sensitizing myself to? I think if you can begin to ask some of these questions, then you can get to the root cause of why that may be there in the first place. And then with that increased awareness, you know how to move more freely, because fear isn't a bad thing. And I don't think it's imaginative either. No, it's literally a neurological state that was programmed in us biologically. However, our perception on what we're scared of is important, because that was created because saber-toothed tigers were trying to eat us. Now saber-toothed tigers are bills, are taking that leap of faith, are our partners, but our brain and our body experience it all the same. So therefore, we must use our mind, different from the brain, to be able to expand our perception, so that way you can utilize it to leverage where you're at versus keep you stuck and stagnant where you're at.
Amen.
Not to say that stillness isn't a bad thing either, because that's its whole nother conversation.
Right.
Stillness is necessary. Stillness is good for reflection. Stillness is great for dream cultivation. Stillness is good for just slowing down, because that's a necessary component energetically to move sustainably in chasing your dream. Because in chasing your dream, once more, you need to create vantage points and checkpoints for yourselves. And I imagine if you're listening to this podcast, you've had the opportunity to listen or be facilitated by either of these two powerful individuals, which hold a very powerful and profound container for you to do some soul exploration or some soul excavation for yourself, which is so necessary.
Yeah. Ah, so true. So true. I see life coaching as like a spiritual chiropractic adjustment.
It's exactly what it is. When I'm life coach or I'm life mentor, and I'm like, hello there. I'm now your chiropractor for your mind and soul.
Yes, I love it.
Because if this gets stuck, it's going to get stuck in your body. And then, hello, I'm going to be your chiropractor for your body.
That's so great.
Do you work with people online as well, or virtually, or how do people best reach you to learn more about your services?
Yes, so I actually get a nice little coach you can call today with a chiropractor from Australia. So I do coach virtually or via Zoom just because it increases my availability or my accessibility to things. I do have my website, drjamalfruster.com, which feels wild to say. Still, I got Soul Coffee, which people can access me virtually. But there you can look at more of my services. Obviously, I'm a chiropractor, and that's what I focus on if you're in the Arizona area. Or if you want to fly out for a healing immersion and receive care for a few weeks or for a few days in a compact setting, I offer that, and we do that at the source to get more effective and powerful healing results. So invitations there. If you're curious about, any one-on-one coaching, I do have apps open. So I'm taking maybe one more client or two this next few months. And then I'm going to do my first group coaching offer come April or early April, which I'm very excited about. It's going to be via Zoom. It's going to be for providers that want to shift their lives in a potent way and are just tired of being tired. And that'll probably be a 2 or 3 month container with a little immersion at the end as well too, so that we can all really feel each other. As it's one thing, I think, to be online, but I love proximity is power, and there's just energy just moves differently when we're with each other. And if I'm working with someone, I got to feel your energy in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. I know last year you all had an event called Soul Revival.
Bingo.
How can people find out what is it, and how can people find out more about it?
Man, Soul Revival has got to be the most happening jam in the land. That it's going to be, this theme is human intelligence. There's a lot of AI out there, and people forget the original intelligence that we came to this world with. So this is going to be a celebration of celebration of human intelligence, a celebration of what's possible for us all. And I imagine just searching Soul Revival 2023, you should see a Brushfire link where you get all the details. It's going to be a 2-day event, the last weekend of April. I believe it's 29th and 30th. It's going to be that Saturday and Sunday here in Tucson. And we're going to be expecting 400 people. Really excited. Last time, I think we had 250, 300 people. About 80% were outside of Tucson, which I think is hilarious. So I think it'd be potent for that number to be about like 50-50 as we deepen our roots here. But man, if you want to celebrate with and discover and leverage and understand the intelligence that we came to this world with and the power that you have as a human being, come party, come learn, come grow. Love to grow community. And that's going to be an annual event. So I'd love to really add more energy to that as I get to be one of the speakers this time. I was the MC last year.
That sounds amazing.
Happy to honor or happy to give y'all a promo code as well too. Just as a thank you for any listeners. I'll send that to you so that way you can send it out in the show notes or whatever maybe, so that way you guys can save $100 as a discount code.
Great. Yes, we'll definitely get that posted. And I just want to say thank you so much for being with us today and sharing your wisdom that is both grounding and inspiring. It's grounding and so expanding at the same time.
I feel that. Oh, I'm honored to be here. Thank y'all so much for having me. It's been such a rich honor. And Michael, the question really Yeah, I think I'm just looking at life differently each day, but that every time you get a mental adjustment, I think it's just a great opportunity for you. That air hits differently, man. So really recognizing self, I think that's charging per se.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, I'm glad we got a chance to do this, and I'm looking forward to the next step in your journey and our journey
Mm.
in life's journey.
Yeah, stick around, y'all, to some soul coffee. I imagine Laura will find her way on there in the future, and Brother Michael has already been on Soul Coffee himself as well too. Going to be a repeat. I imagine Nourisher or Soul Coffee, but however I can serve y'all, find me on Instagram at Dr. Jamal Fruster as well too, as that's where I put majority of my energy right now. However, your boy's going to be on LinkedIn more often too, bopping around. So thank you all so much, and however I can be of service to you, please feel free to reach out.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Dr. Jamal. And thank you everyone for joining us today. We hope that these messages have been a lantern to you on your path as you expand your success as a coach, leader, or helping professional. You can join the conversation further at integrativeintelligence.global. We'll see you next time.